guys, I'm here with my mom. I feel like she knows my cancer story better than anyone because her and my dad were with me the whole way, every appointment.
I didn't leave her side.
Yeah.
I spent every night in the hospital
And
on this little hard bed.
And the story kind of involves you.
Okay.
Part 1 was just how I got diagnosed with cancer, my signs and symptoms. And this video is going to be about my treatments. So I had about 6 months of chemotherapy and then 2 months of radiation. So in the last video I ended with I had never gotten a surgery before in my life and that I had to go under and get my port put in, and at the same time they took a lymph node out to biopsy to confirm that it was cancer. So I woke up from surgery and I was in so much pain. Turns out that I have a body that's really resistant to pain meds. I ended up staying in the hospital for longer than I needed to because they couldn't get ahead of my pain.
Than they expected you would.
So first of all, I think I should say that I've always been a baby with like needles and everything growing up. Well, like no more than any other kid though. Like when I got shots, I was like, do I have to get a shot? Can I get it tomorrow? So the first night I got admitted in the hospital, I had to have 2 IVs because they put one in me at the ER where I'm from, and then when I got transferred to Children's Hospital, they put another one in and they thought their needles were different, but they didn't take this one out. And so I'm having 2 IVs in my arms and I didn't want to like move or anything. The first night that they found my tumor and I was sleeping in Children's, I was sleeping like this. The little sleep I did get that night because I really didn't sleep. I was always on fluids and everything. I always was hooked up to like the machine, so I had to like take it to the bathroom with me. I had to take it everywhere I went, which I didn't go many places. I just laid in bed because I was hurting so bad. So this was the second day being in the hospital, the day after my surgery. I'm hooked up to the machines and everything. That day I'm still in pain. That night my friends come and they stay with me at the hospital, and one of my friends was staying in the bed with me because there just wasn't any space. My mom was there, my dad was there, 2 friends. And so I was trying to like lay in like a weird position because I didn't want to like be cuddling her or anything. Anyways, at like probably 2 or 3 in the morning, the alarm goes off on the machines. So we all wake up and the nurses and doctors and everyone are surrounding me and they say, you can't lay like that, you can't lay like that. Your tumor cut off your airways in your sleep. You have to lay straight flat. That's the only way you can sleep. You would have died if you were at your house and that happened.
If she wasn't diagnosed when she was, she could have went to sleep and never woke up because her tumor was so big she couldn't breathe when she laid a certain way. So we were lucky it happened the way it happened.
Like I could have been off to school at Western Washington University, just laying in the dorm and not waking up because my tumor cut off my airways. So thankfully the next day we started chemo treatments to start shrinking the tumor and opening up my airways.
It's the hardest thing to watch your daughter lay in bed and the nurses come in, it's all poison they're putting into her system, so they can't get any on themselves, so they're wearing like a thing over their head, their clothes are covered, of course gloves, shoes.
Everyone had to leave the room during this.
I think it was the second night that we were there.
This is 3-ish, I think, the first day of my first chemo treatment. They hook me up, they get the nurse in there that's going to be putting my chemo in me. So I had my port put in during my surgery, and that's where all my chemo was going to be going through. It was right over where my tumor actually was, so I have a scar. If you can see it, I'll try to find another picture right here. So it was like a circular thing that stuck out. I don't know if you've seen what a port looks like before or not. It was super uncomfortable. I couldn't sleep on that side the whole time I had it in. I was so afraid of needles and so scared that it was gonna hurt, and especially thinking about like putting a needle in my chest because it's still like skin and then the port's in there. It's like a thin layer of skin. That I asked them for my first round of chemo if while I was put to sleep, when they put my port in, if they could just hook up an IV to me then when I was under so that I didn't also have to worry about that during my first round of chemo. That's uncomfortable on its own because you have like these little tubes and stuff taped to you right there. And if you have chemos like in a week or so, you don't want to have to get repoked, or in a couple of days. You just keep it in. So you keep it in for like weeks sometimes with all the tubes and everything. Obviously the port's always in, but I mean the IV stays in you. And then you have to put your clothes on over it and try not to pull it or tug it, and it's just huge and right there. almost the middle of my chest.
And
so
keep it
always
extremely clean.
Yeah. Okay, so this is before my chemo, but after my surgery. I had a ton of friends from my school just coming to like check on me and say they're praying for me and everything. So I had a couple of my friends in the room with me, and my mom, this was really hard for her the whole time I got diagnosed, especially like the few first days. Both of my grandparents actually passed away from cancer. What did your mom have?
So my mom had pancreas cancer, and she actually died in my arms, which is the way I wanted it. I was with her when we knew it was coming time. And so to go to the emergency room with Savannah and to hear that she had cancer, it was so hard on my body. I just could not get it in my head, those words, that she had a big tumor. And so all the way to the hospital, in my mind, I was thinking, how long has she had it? Is it spreaded? Are they going to tell me she only has a certain amount of months like they told me about my mom? So all this was going through my head, and I was feeling dizzy and just extremely like I was going to pass out, but I kept trying to stay strong.
Yeah,
for
my
her.
dad went straight from work to meet my mom at the ER, which I saw in the last video. But I could tell they both had tears in their eyes and were crying, but trying to be strong for me when I got back. So I just acted like they weren't. But obviously they were. I wasn't diagnosed with what cancer yet. We didn't know about it.
By the time we got to the emergency room at Children's, I couldn't even walk. They put me in a wheelchair.
So they're supposed to put the cancer patient in a wheelchair no matter what. Even if they feel like they're fine, they can walk. So anyways, I ended up saying, I'm fine, I can walk. And she needed to sit down. So she was in the wheelchair, and they were like,
stand.
Wait, who's the patient?
Mm-hmm. So it took a couple hours before they actually got her on the floor in
the cancer unit.
So she was visiting with her friends, and I kept getting sick on my stomach.
And the doctors came because they had to put like a saline flush or like something in my IV. For them to do that, everyone had to leave the room, so they made my mom and my two friends leave the room. So there was a bathroom right outside my room, and so my mom had to go to the bathroom because she was feeling so...
I was feeling so sick, so I was coming out of the bathroom that was down the hall from her room, and two of her friends were standing outside of her room waiting to go back in. And I felt like I was going to pass out, so I grabbed onto one of them, and she caught me, and I went to the ground. And then one of the nurses saw what happened, and they called code blue.
So me and the nurse that was hooking up my fluids was like, code blue to room whatever. And she's like, room whatever. She's like, that's your room. She's like, but you're fine. What the heck? And then come to find out, that was because she passed out right outside my room.
So pretty much my body went into shock. They checked my heart, and they were worried about my heart because my EKG came back with something on it. So since we were at a children's hospital, they had to rush me by ambulance to another hospital for adults. So my husband had Savannah and Children's with this tumor, and had his wife at another hospital.
I had to get another surgery the next day. I had to get my backbone biopsy.
Yeah, telling the doctor, I have to go. I have to be with my daughter. She's having surgery. And the doctor's like, you have to take care of yourself or you're not going to be able to help your daughter. So I was there at the hospital overnight, and two of my good friends waited in the waiting room for hours for me. And then when I came out, they took me back home so I could change clothes and stuff, and then I went back to the hospital. And I was able to be there for her surgery.
So the next surgery I had was my backbone biopsy to make sure that it wasn't in my bones. So now I'm going into my second surgery. Before this, I never had any surgeries, and now I'm having them within days apart. So anyways, I had that surgery. That was fine, and now we got the results back, and it's time to start chemo. They diagnosed me with advanced stage 2 Hodgkin's lymphoma, and it technically was like stage 3, I think, because it started to spread to my stomach, but barely. So they just decided to keep it as advanced stage 2. So additionally, they said that I was going to need 4 rounds of chemotherapy, and it's intense chemotherapy. It's like tons of different chemos. Wait, hey Dad, can you come here?
Yeah.
My dad's on the other side. It was so long ago, I can't remember my exact schedule of my chemo treatments, and that time was just a blur because I was on all the drugs and everything that kind of like, I think when you go through a traumatic time too, it kind of like makes you forget certain details. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like I said, my parents were with me through every chemo treatment and everything, and my dad obviously drove me there all the time and stayed with me, and so he remembers it a little bit better. So can you?
Yeah, so your chemo regimen, they would normally keep you for a day or two. So they would give you into your port, they gave you, I think it was 3 different chemotherapies, and they'd have to get into all sorts of personal protective equipment and shields because that stuff is so
Yeah, that's what we said.
toxic and all that stuff. So that was just really weird seeing them put that stuff, that poison really, into your body. But so they gave you 3 of those that way. They gave you 1 just through oral medication, prednisone, and then they gave another one through, it was through your port but at a different time. So they broke it up over 2 or 3 different days.
And then I think I went, like, I was allowed to go home for a week after a couple days post chemo treatments. But I was so sick and I had so many side effects, and I'll talk about that in a minute, that I ended up staying in the hospital for way longer. Going into the next week, that was supposed to be my outpatient chemotherapy, which was 2 days of that.
Yep, which is following that. But you had such a strong reaction to the 1 chemotherapy, which was vincristine, that they had to stop that after your 2nd round.
And the Friday after, she gets the shot to build her white blood counts back up.
Yep.
I'd go in one day for an outpatient chemotherapy, so I wasn't inpatient. I was inpatient for my other chemos. But then after a week, I'd go for my outpatient, and I was allowed, if I wasn't in the hospital, to go back home, and then go back, do my outpatient chemotherapy, go home after a little bit, and then I had to come back the next day again to get a shot that was supposed to build up my immune system. But the shot really, really hurt. It stung so bad. So we tried things like putting ice in it first and try numbing it up and stuff, and that really helped. So there's one thing I would say is definitely ice it for a while before they give the shot.
So after your chemo, the poison kills everything in your body. And so you can catch anything. Can't be around anybody with the flu or anything because you have no immune system, and you can catch something that can kill you.
So it would be after 2 or 3 weeks of chemo. It always depended on the round. Each round was different on how my body reacted, and my immune system went back up the time it took. So they would test you and be like, okay, your blood counts look good. You can go out now. You can go to the movies or wherever you want to go. Just be careful. And so when it got to that time and I'd go out with my friends or something, if someone would cough, I would look at them and be like, panic. Like, how dare you cough near me? Like, I'm going to get sick. I could, you know, easily catch pneumonia and not be able to fight or something, you know? So you have to be so careful, and it just makes you really nervous. My first chemo treatment was in November. And so by the time of Thanksgiving, I was so sick, and the chemo treatments were really, really hard on me. Harder than they should have been, because going into it, I was super, super healthy. Like, you know, from the video before, I was super healthy. During the chemo treatment, I had like some of my friends in the room and my family, and I was even like dancing. I got up and dancing. So I felt like fine. Like, I wasn't nervous. I was kind of over it. I was just like, let's get started.
She was always stronger than the rest of us. Always.
I ended up getting really sick after my chemo, so I never got to go home. When I was allowed to go home, I had to be inpatient. And so Thanksgiving comes around, and I'm really sick at the hospital. Shelby spent it here by herself.
We took turns coming home to eat.
Yeah. So that was kind of sad. And all the nurses were like, what are you going to do for Thanksgiving? And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm inpatient. I can't do anything. I can't eat. I'm so sick. So let's talk about side effects from chemo. I finally got approved to go home way after I was supposed to go home. And at that point, it was 2 weeks post my first chemo, and so my hair was starting to thin, but I was in a bed suffering like from extreme nausea.
She got every side effect.
I got every side effect, of course. Like, my jaw hurt really bad, and my throat was like, all this stuff was like coming up that they had to give me like a tube to like suck out all like the stuff in my mouth. It's just so gross.
It's severe jaw pain.
Like so bad. Your teeth, your jaw hurts so bad. And so I was just laying in bed, and I slept for a long time, most of my days. And so I'm just sleeping, feeling so sick. And so anyways, I wasn't showering a lot because I just couldn't. I didn't have the energy. I couldn't get up. I had to take like my whole like
she pretty
whole
much
thing.
Had strong pain medication, so she slept for like 3 days without waking up. She'd just sleep, wake up for a minute, and go back to sleep because
of all the medicines I was on, how my body reacted to all the side effects I got. And showering was really hard for me. I was so weak, and I had to take my IV pole thing with me wherever I went. I didn't shower for like those 2 weeks, and so I finally got to go home, and I finally got to shower and get in clothes. So I go home, and my friends surprised me with like a welcome home party. It's like nice of them to do it, but I was so tired, and the first thing I wanted to do was shower. I just felt so gross. I hadn't showered in forever. So I'm like, I'm gonna shower and then I'm gonna come out and hang out with you guys. I'm really sorry. And so I go to shower, and I'm still like super weak, and I notice a huge knot in my hair. And I could not get it out, and some hair was just falling into my hands, and I couldn't get the knot out of my hair. So I was just like upset because I was like, my hair's so knotted, I'm exhausted, I can't stand anymore. I went to get my mom. I needed help brushing through it or shampooing it. I couldn't do anything. And so she came in the shower with me. We had to put a chair in the shower, didn't we?
She was sitting in the chair, and I got a whole bottle of conditioner and I put it in her hair. Now to back up, Savannah loved her hair. It was just getting really long because her hair grows slow.
And I was dyeing it so much, and I finally got it to exactly what I wanted. I loved my hair. It was super long. It had like this balayage. It was so pretty, and I was so excited I finally got it the way I wanted it.
Right before she was diagnosed, she's like, Mom, look how long my hair finally is. It was
the
like,
longest it's been ever.
Right before. So we're in the shower, and I pour the conditioner in her hair. And as I'm trying to get the tangle out, just wads of hair is falling in my hand.
And she didn't say anything to me.
I stood behind her and I cried. She had no idea, but tears was running down my eyes.
I didn't know I was losing that much hair.
I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what. She was so weak, and there was no way that her hair was gonna untangle.
She didn't let me see her face, and she ended up just saying, I'm sorry, I can't do it, and she left. So anyways, the next day, I had bald spots. I noticed them. And I told my parents I have all these bald spots now. A lot of times people before, when they know they're going to lose their hair, they decide to like cut their hair or do something they've always wanted to do, dye it like a crazy color because you're going to lose it anyways. And I was excited to cut my hair or like do something fun, but I was in the hospital so long suffering from side effects that when I got home, I was losing my hair right away. I didn't have time to do any of that. So the next day, get my family and we go and find a wig shop.
Yeah, you walked up to me and you said it's time to shave my head.
It hurt.
Got bald spots. So we went and found a wig place, and they will shave the head for you.
Yeah, so they give you like a scalp massage. They shave the hair for you and everything, and then I got a wig.
And that was a hard thing for the family because we all four went. She was so weak and so sick, and she's just sitting there with no emotion while they're shaving her head. And
I didn't cry or anything. I literally had no emotion. I was just standing there like this.
Me, Shelby, and her dad, we all were behind her. We were all turning around where she couldn't see us because all three of us just had tears running down our face. And she just sat there.
So they can't shave it like all the way down, so I just had like a buzz cut and little patches of hair. The reason why they do that way is if you shave it and there's little pieces in your hair, you can get ingrown hairs. And that's not good when you're going through chemo treatments and stuff. It can cause bacteria and infections and things. And so just cut it short and then let the hair fall off naturally, because within a few weeks I had no hair left. Like all the little pieces came out. But that's just important to know, because it does look funny when you're like, I'd rather just be completely bald than like little bald spots, but it's healthy when you're going through all that. And it honestly felt so nice because my hair was just knotted. It was in dreads because all of hair was falling off and just tangling. And so when they shaved it off, honestly, my head felt so much better. That's another reason why I was like, okay, get it off, because I just couldn't. It was just pulling.
I want to say one of the first things Savannah said the first night we were in the hospital, even before I passed out, Jeff and I looked at each other. We said, how can she be this strong? She's doing so well. And Savannah looked at me and she said, because I want to be a role model for other people, and I want to keep this very positive. And she was positive through everything. Me, Shelby, and her dad, there's times we fell apart. She was strong for us. Things she posted, she wanted it positive. She wanted to be there for anybody else. She had people reach out for her that would talk about how strong she was.
And that's one of the reasons I wanted to start a YouTube video, biz, because when I was going through it, looking up and trying to find people on YouTube, I couldn't find many people to relate to and get all the information, good and bad and everything. And I know a couple people that are going through it now, and they're just so strong. And some people don't like to share their stories and don't want to share everything. And so I want to be able to put awareness out there so people can realize a little more what they're going through. Because I know a lot of people didn't really understand it when I was going through it.
And it affects your whole family.
But also, like, the whole time, I was just thankful it was me. I would have rather it been me than my mom or Shelby or my dad.
And I wanted it to be me. I would have taken it from her in a second.
But I was really glad the whole time. I still am glad it was me and not them. I couldn't have handled it.
It was so hard for me to watch her in bed so sick. And here I was at the age I am and healthy. It was the hardest thing for me. If I could have switched places with her, I would have in a second. But she kept trying to be strong for her family.
I never cried after that. Like, after the first initial time they told me I had cancer, I don't think I ever, like, cried again until, like, after. But not during the beginning of treatments or anything. Losing my hair, none of that. So I came home after they shaved my head. I got my wig. So originally, it was just a long, medium-ish brown wig. My hair was a little naturally darker than it, but I thought it might be, like, fun to go a little lighter or whatever. They tell you not to sleep in the wig and not to wear it when you're going swimming or in a, I don't know, all these rules and stuff where you can't wear your wig. So I came home and I did my makeup and everything, and I took a selfie without my wig on so everyone could see that I was losing my hair. So me and my boyfriend were newly into our relationship, and I came home and I showed him. And of course, he just always was like, you're beautiful, whatever.
You're beautiful, no matter what. Yeah.
He's like, you're so cute.
He stuck by her through everything. He never left her side.
No.
2 18-year-olds going through that had to be tough.
Yeah, so that's how I lost my hair, and that's kind of the story with that part of it. And then the next round of chemo, again, the side effects were so harsh, but this time I developed super horrible neuropathy. One day I'm going out with my friends. They invited me to a choir concert, and it was like my first time out. And this is, again, a few weeks after my chemo treatment when they told me that I'm fine to go out and do whatever I want to do. And again, it was much later than they thought I was going to be able to. And I went to put on these little heels that I've worn 1,000 times. I wore them so much. And I went to put it on with like a little black dress. And I started to walk, and I noticed my ankles were just like giving out. Like I could not walk. It was the weirdest thing. I was like, am I that weak? And then I started to notice that when my feet were laying like this, just like laying in bed like this, I couldn't lift them like this on my own. They would just flop. I tried so hard. It was like my brain couldn't connect with the nerves that tell you to do this. And then I noticed my hands couldn't do that either. So my hands were like this. And I couldn't do this on their own. I could only, like, if someone was holding them up like that, then they would move. So that was a version of neuropathy I had that got really, really bad. They were all saying this is the worst neuropathy I've ever seen. On top of that, I had horrible, horrible burning in my feet. It felt like I was sticking them in a fire, and they were turned bright red. And this is a super rare side effect. I don't know anyone else, and I know a few people who have had this cancer and a bunch of people that have had this chemo treatment that this didn't happen to them. They had neuropathy, but not as severe, so I don't want that to scare anyone. And so that night, I ended up having to wear flats because I couldn't walk in heels. So I went there. I was feeling so weak and tired. Anyways, so that was my first night out. Yeah. So my neuropathy kept getting worse. I had to go back to the hospital where they diagnosed me with neuropathy, and it kept getting worse in the next few days. So it's after my second chemo treatment. So my neuropathy was so bad, and all the doctors just kept saying it's the worst I've ever seen. We need to stop this one chemo, the one that was affecting my body so harshly. We need to stop that one. So I was supposed to have 2 more rounds of that, and they ended up saying your body can't handle that anymore. On the flip side though, my tumor was shrinking really fast. I could breathe better. I didn't have all the chest pain and anything. I felt so much better in that way. But this chemo was the one that was really helping that, and I had to stop that. So initially they said that after I finished my 4 rounds of chemotherapy, if my cancer was gone, that I wouldn't need radiation. And it is over my heart and lungs. It'd be in my stomach and up my throat, so. Anyways, the next few rounds, again, I just got really sick. I ended up in a wheelchair because I couldn't walk. I literally was in the hospital Christmas Eve getting chemo treatments and stuff. I was in the hospital inpatient for months without coming home. And so I wasn't doing much walking or exercising or hanging out with friends or anything to get up and get ready and walk around and stuff. So yeah, I'm laying down for a long time. So what happened was I couldn't lift my feet on their own. So my Achilles started to shrink. They started to tighten because they weren't getting stretched. Because I couldn't stretch them because of my neuropathy. And this was a very rare thing as well. Like, that shouldn't happen, but it happened. And what that meant was that I was walking on my toes. My heels wouldn't touch the ground. When I was standing up, just straight up, my heels could not touch the ground. And I had 2 huge Charlie horses. My calves were so tight, it hurt so bad. And we tried everything to stretch them out on their own. We tried braces, we tried occupational therapy, physical therapy, acupuncture. We just tried everything, all these stretching exercises, everything. Nothing was gonna move them, nothing. The only thing that would was surgery. So I had to get Achilles lengthening surgery on each of my feet, just so I could stand flat-footed.
After all of her chemo.
Yeah, just so I could stand flat-footed, just so my heels could stay on the ground. So anyways, I ended up having to get that after chemo treatments, 1 at a time, and then it's like 6-week recovery, but more than that. And I still can't wear heels. Now I have the opposite problem where I can't stand on my toes. And my ankles give out still. I'm really weak, but at least I can walk heel toe. I walk about 30 minutes and my feet just give out. They flop. I get really tired. I just can't keep up. I walk really slow. My feet start dragging. But I couldn't just live with like 2 intense Charlie horses not being able to put my heels on the ground. And it looked funny too. People would stare at me. One time we were at the mall and one of the guys at the kiosks trying to sell us something was trying to get our attention and said something like, "Why are you walking like that?" and trying to make a joke and be funny. And I was just so emotional because I was so sick of everything I went through with my neuropathy and all the surgeries and everything, and it was just so hard. I was in a wheelchair for so long trying not to be in the wheelchair, so I was trying to walk that day even though I was supposed to be in my wheelchair, and then someone makes fun of me. I just freaked out, and it's so not like me. I would never do this. I turned around and was like, "'Cause I have cancer!" I literally screamed it in front of everyone. His face, poor guy, he was probably like what did his face look like?
Because I turned around and looked at him because it made me so mad. And after she screamed at him like that, he turned around and he just put his head down. Like, what have I done? I don't know if he thought she was just messing around because her walk was off.
It did look really weird.
But, yeah.
Yeah, I just freaked. I feel bad now, but I'm kind of glad I did because I just don't want him to do that to anyone. Like, that's another thing. You just never know what someone's going through and why something is the way it is. So you can't just assume that someone's being funny. You never know what someone's going through.
I hope he learned his lesson because she wasn't laughing or anything. She was just walking. Not only did he ask her why she was walking like that, he copied her.
He was like, "Why are you doing this? Why are you walking like this?" making fun of me, and that was just the normal way I walked, so it was just really hurtful. And another time we were going to the mall and I was trying on shoes. I really wanted shoes for Easter. I wanted to kind of look cute for Easter, and of course I couldn't wear heels, so I was trying to find shoes that would look good with a dress. And I was trying on so many shoes and just nothing would work with my feet, with how bad my nerves were. So me and my mom ended up sitting down. I needed to take a break. I was exhausted anyways, and I just started bawling, and these girls were across from us laughing at me.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if they thought she was crying because she couldn't get something. They had no idea. But again, you don't know what somebody's going through.
Yeah. And I didn't know. She didn't tell me till later that happened.
And here she is, someone who wore high heels even through school and always loved to dress up.
I was the girl who wore like 4-inch heels to high school every day.
Yeah. Loved to dress up, but now couldn't wear high heels anymore. And she'd already been through so much and couldn't get her foot in any shoes. And here they are laughing at her. They had no idea what she's already gone through and what she was going through at the time.
The neuropathy even made my toes curl up and not be able to straighten. So even recently I had to go in and get surgery on every one of my toes to straighten them, so that I could wear shoes and slide my foot into things and stuff. And it's just a lot. There's so much I could go on and on about. Today I still have neuropathy. Luckily I can do like this with my foot now, my hands. But
her hands are still so weak.
I can't open a water bottle. I can't open up a bag of chips. I can't button and unbutton barely if I try like super hard. And my feet feel like I'm sticking them in a fire all day long, all night. It goes back and forth. They'll get like super, super ice cold and turn like blue. And it'll be one extreme to the other, then they'll be inflamed and turn hot, hot, bright red. And that's every day. And these are just really rare side effects. I had every single side effect from chemo. They told me that nerves are a weird thing, and I give you 2 years after your last chemo treatment. And I think that if it's not gone by then, it'll probably be permanent. It maybe get a little bit worse, but we're hopeful. And then I'm year 3 now. And it hasn't gotten better. It's pretty much stayed consistent, but it hasn't gotten better, that's for sure. So I'll probably just have it for the rest of my life.
I think that's where a lot of people don't understand what she goes through. And I hope this video helps.
That's kind of another reason why I wanted to make this video, is because now I'm kind of like to be the spokesperson for it. And it's because I've been through it. I've been through where a lot of people don't understand, because I dressed up still and I still go to church or like whatever, but I can't get a job. I can't stand very long. I can't walk very long. I can't sit very long. My back hurts because my Achilles are off and it throws everything off. My back, my hips.
Fingers don't work all the time.
Can't write. Yeah. Like even my friends, I don't tell them things I go through.
If she goes and has a very active night and pushes herself to keep up,
which I do, I always push myself too hard,
then she'll have to rest for 2 days.
Just to get my body back up
for 2 days to get her body back up. If we go to the mall, one day she might be able to last 3 hours. One day she might only be able to last an hour. It just depends on how her nerves and her legs are doing.
Yeah, and I'm still hopeful that I'm going to get back to normal one day, even though they say I'm not going to, most likely. I've had doctors tell me it's not going to get any better. You just can't get your hopes up. You need to accept it and move on.
You need to accept it's the way it is, but things are changing every day. You don't know what options are going to be out there one day that might be able to help.
Yeah. So anyways, the camera's about to die, but that's chemo treatments. So I'm sure there's a lot I'm missing, but I guess that's the biggest thing of it, is that I was impatient way longer than I needed to be, and it affected me really badly. Next up was, they told me that I wasn't gonna need radiation if at the end of my 4 rounds of chemotherapy that my cancer was gone. However, my test came back. I was so anxious waiting, and we got the call that I was gonna need radiation. I was gonna have to drive again an hour away every day except for the weekends for 2 months to go get radiation and come back home. And that was a few hours every day. So my dad took me every single day. My mom was back in work at this point. My dad had to take time off. They just had to switch taking time off and stuff. And he never complained, of course. He just made it really fun for me and lighthearted. They both always did. And so we had fun. Like, we would always look for things to do. So I walk into radiation my first day, and I'm the youngest one there by far. I had to go there every day. I'd go in the back. I'd take off my clothes, get in the gown. I'd lay on a table. They'd pin me down to it. I couldn't move. I had to be really still for the whole however many minutes it was of targeting the areas. I got it on my neck, my parts of my stomach, and obviously all over my chest. And so there are some side effects with like heart stuff or
And you had to wear this, why?
possible. Because you couldn't move. You had to stand completely still to make sure the radiation went exactly on the parts that it needed to. They had to make sure they put you on the table with the exact measurements every time. That's why you had to stay still. You could barely breathe. They told me that they were going to have to mark me spots because they have a laser that like lines you up to all the spots. And I told them I did not want any, I already had scars. They wanted
a tattoo.
Yeah, like little dots. And I told them I did not want any more scars or any more things to remind me of what I went through. They put a sticker on me and I had to keep the sticker on for like weeks on end. And they were just little like round, really sticky stickers that wouldn't even come off in the shower with like crosses on them. I had them all over. And so then I'm trying to wear cute clothes and I can't because yeah, they're always seen. And the people are like, what's that? Always ask you. And I'm like a robot now with my story. They told me I'd get red and burnt and stuff. And it wasn't that bad. Fun. Yeah, I didn't have much pain. It just started to get a little red at like the very end. So radiation after I finished my 2 months, it was time for my checkup and my scans and everything. And my radiation doctor said that I was all clear and that the tumor shrunk and there's no live cancer cells. And he hopes to never see me again. Because obviously if you saw me again, that would be for a bad reason. Everyone whose last day of radiation, you gotta hit the gong. And so you have to do that in front of everyone in front of like the waiting room. And everyone there was so nice. Recording me and like taking pictures and clapping and like screaming. But I just hope they all get their turn because it was so cute. And now, moving on, I do want to touch on wigs really quickly. I didn't know anything about wigs. I didn't know anyone who had an experience like going wig shopping or anything, so I didn't know anything about like that world. So we ended up getting a wig from the same place that shaved my head. And it was so expensive, way too expensive.
It was $1,600.
So it was real human hair, but it just tangled so easily. It was poofy, it was frizzy. And I'll insert pictures. I tried to make it look good. I tried dyeing it. I tried doing all these things to it. Cutting it, putting extensions in it. Anyways, but a lot of the times I just wore a beanie. Like especially going to the hospital and stuff. So, keep me warm and it was just comfy. But another option is someone sent me this, a family member. And it's just like a little hair. It has no like band, so it doesn't hurt your head because a lot of times like wigs, like they do get kind of sensitive on your head because it has to be tight to like stay on and stuff. So this is like what I would kind of wear to like go get coffee or run errands because it's just comfy and light, but people won't stare at you because it looks like you have hair.
The hair is attached inside the hat.
Yeah, so if you don't want people to ask you questions, and it's synthetic hair, but it's way better than the wig. Like it feels so much nicer, like it doesn't get all tangly, and so yeah, that was really helpful. And I'll look up the brand of that and I'll link it below. But on top of that, 2 websites that I think are very good for wigs and that I wish that I had known about before buying the wig I did is websterwigs.com and Everyday Wigs. Yeah, they're really good. So Webster Wigs and Everyday Wigs, and they're way cheaper. I could have bought like 10 or 11 wigs. More than that probably. I probably could have bought 20 wigs from either of those places than the one I got. And they're way better, way cuter. So many options. They don't tangle. I have one now that I wear just for fun. So it's like blonde. Okay. Oh my gosh. So I did want to mention that in case you know anyone, because I have had a couple people ask me about where I got my wig and I wouldn't recommend it, but I would recommend these places. Yeah. So I guess that's it. The next video will be about how I'm doing now, post everything I've been through, what it's like to live with it, stuff that I still experience, just life after the fact. All of that jazz. And I think it's really different than what people would think, but this is all just my experience. All of these are just my experiences. I feel like that's important, so it doesn't scare you with like the neuropathy things and stuff. Everyone's story is different. Everyone's body reacts differently to chemos, radiations, everything. So yeah, I don't know if you have any questions, leave them below or DM me. anything at all. Me and my sister always like to answer questions, so yeah. Anything you have to say?
No.
Thank you for your love and prayers, and peace. Hey guys, we're in the middle of doing another video really quick that's coming up, but while we were editing this video, I realized I forgot to mention that I had 2 blood transfusions as well. How I forgot to mention that, I have no idea, but real quick. So the first blood transfusion I had, I think, was after my 2nd round of chemo, and because I was feeling so ill and sick and weak, they told me that as soon as they start putting it in you, your face will light up, you'll get your color back, you'll start feeling just so much better. And that's what happened. I had my family members in the room with me, and my grandpa actually went and got McDonald's, and I was eating like fries and dipping it in ketchup, and it looked so weird to see like the blood thing right there, and everyone was like laughing at me, freaking out. But I remember getting out and feeling so much better. And it's so weird to have someone else's blood in you. It's kind of scary, and they say if your body's going to react, it'll do so in the first few minutes, and so they watch you really closely. But I had no problems. It was really easy, really good. There's nothing to be afraid about. At least that's how mine went. And then my second blood transfusion was after my 3rd or last round of chemo. For my next blood transfusion, I had my friend in the room with me, my dad, and we just sat there for like, I think it's 4 to 5 hours, somewhere in between there, when you're getting the blood transfusion, and we just hung out and ate crackers and watched TV and stuff. So it was pretty easy, long, but you feel better after. So I forgot to mention that, so we thought we'd just add that real quick. Okay, bye.